About 23 million Californians will soon receive inflation relief checks of up to $1,050 under a budget deal reached by Governor Gavin Newsom and state lawmakers. The checks are part of a $17 billion relief package that will also suspend the state's sales tax on diesel and provide additional aid to help people with rent and utility bills. Joining us to discuss further from London, Opeoluwa Dapo Thomas, International Financial Analyst. Ope, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. What do you make of this latest round of helicopter money that's being planned in California? Any inflation concerns?
Hello, thank you for having me on the show. First off, like I said, most countries basically always want to ensure that their citizens are living well, and obviously we've seen a lot of strikes and a lot of protests from different countries. Citizens are complaining about the inflation rising, so governments obviously have a prerogative and objective to ensure their citizens are happy, and that's basically behind the idea behind increasing what I call it inflation checks. So 23 million Californians are going to benefit from this deal, and also they're going to reduce it from taxes in diesel, obviously bringing down energy price cost. But the truth is that it's going to obviously lead to inflation because you're printing more money. I mean, this is basically what brought us to where we are. There was so much money in the last 2 years from government supply, all the stimulus checks, almost three rounds of stimulus checks, and now they're bringing checks of $1,300. That's you have put more money in the economy. So basically, demand increases. What we're trying to do, or what the government is trying to do, is or the central banks are trying to do, is to reduce demand, and that's basically the first thing you have to do when you want to tackle something like inflation. But this basically, yes, I understand the idea. It's it's a coin toss of an affair. It's either heads or tail. You either try and help your citizens, but also you're also exacerbating the issue, and these are the issues that the central banks are having. That's why they just don't want to increase interest rates.
All right. Speaking of inflation, if we go over to Spain, a 37-year high of 10%. Does this place more pressure on the ECB as far as rate hikes are concerned?
Well, yes, it places more pressure on the ECB because obviously they have to do something because inflation in Europe is rising in different countries. I mean, 10% in Spain, 9% in England. Also, Germany too is also suffering from inflation. And if you take away energy and food prices, you have 5.5% of other costs coming up, increasing in the month of June. So hotel cost, on tourism, hospitality, thereabout. So the Spain government is basically also going to introduce what California just did. They're going to introduce measures of giving 200 euros to people that earn below 14,000 in a year. Basically, also trying to make some sort of life easy for people. In the UK, the government announced a cost of living package where 8 million low-income households will benefit. I never benefit from all of these things, but it's fine enough. It's in Nigeria as well. The government is saying they're going to share 20 billion naira monthly for 2 million people, where everyone gets 5,000 naira. So governments are basically trying to tackle inflation by putting money in people's hands so that they don't suffer from the high rising energy prices.
All right, Okpa, you don't benefit because you're in the top 1%. That's why you don't benefit. Energy prices are one of the major inflation triggers. What do you make of the UK regulator Ofgem limiting profits for local electricity distribution companies in the UK where you are?
Well, the idea is for them to increase maintenance. So now, normally, when a company wants to increase investments in maintenance or what would I call it, operations, they usually increase the prices of their costs, obviously now translating the cost to customers. So what OFM here is trying to do as a regulator is saying, okay, we're going to limit your profits. Don't increase your don't keep your profits. From a percentage of your profits, use it to fix maintenance and use it to do runarounds. I mean, they're trying to break some of the excesses of these electricity distributors, and that's very good. That makes energy prices stable for customers, because if you increase the cost of prices and say you want to do runaround checks, making life difficult for the customer, it's not very fair. So there's a regulator, obviously, which is prerogative is to ensure consumer protection, will say, no, use your profit out of your profit to fix your maintenance, and that's what makes sense for the economy.
Let's talk NATO real quick. What do you make of, Turkey, paving the way for Sweden and Finland to get closer to joining?
Well, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. People in Moscow are not going to be happy. Russia is not going to be happy about this development. NATO is getting stronger and stronger. I mean, there was a recent, what do I call it, article where I read where NATO is basically saying they're going to increase their defense from 40,000 troops to 300,000 troops. So the addition of Sweden and Finland will obviously secure their eastern flank and will make a threat to Russia and Belarus. So this is very, very interesting. And I see NATO getting stronger. And also most countries in the NATO are trying to increase their defense spending, and that's basically going to be a threat to Russia, who obviously can't increase their defense spending because of what do you call it, their revenue is obviously dwindling and declining because of sanctions and thereabouts and caps in energy prices, which will come very, very soon. But this is very good. I'm very proud that Turkey allowed this go through. There was a 6-week deadlock, and which was obviously making the deal, what do I call it, slow, but finally, Sweden and Finland are getting closer, and hopefully it makes NATO stronger, and it also makes peace for democracy and peace in the Eastern Eurozone.
You mentioned increase in defense spending, so I take it you agree with UK Defense Secretary Ben Wallace saying that the UK also has to increase its spending as well.
Oh yes, basically, if you want to be a leader in Europe, if you want to be a leader, if you want to have, what do I call it, authority and legitimacy over your oppressors or over people in the region, it shows in your defense. The amount of money you spend in your defense is a statement, and that's why you have the United States, for example, the largest country in terms of defense expenditure. No one comes close to how much the United States on expenditure, because they want their words to matter. They want their words to have actions. They want their actions to be loud. So if you increase your defense spending, it solidifies you. It makes you know that you're strong. It makes your adversaries know that they can't come close to you and they can't threaten you. It basically, there are global tensions right now because what's going on in Ukraine is unprecedented. It shouldn't happen, and the government is trying to bring it to a close. However, everybody's going to have to be on high alert because this can spiral to anywhere. We're hoping there's no World War III, but however, everyone has to be on alert, and that's what Ben Wallace is trying to say here.
Very quickly, the U.S. adding 5 Chinese firms to the export blacklist. Do you think, for allegedly aiding Russia, does this inflame U.S.-China tensions? Briefly, if you can.
Oh yes, we all know that China does not like US and US does not like China. Any sort of arrangement they have is just a marriage of convenience. What China basically is doing is saying that they are not going to stop their support for Russia, and they are going to help them with their military expenditure and help them with their military forces. But the US basically is sending out a statement here by blacklisting these 5 Chinese firms and saying that for anyone that helps Russia, we'll cut you off our list. So we're basically not going to export to these 5 firms. So they've listed out the 5 firms, put them in the blacklist, our entity list, and saying no one should trade or have any business with them, sending out a statement to other companies that are also going to try and trade with Russia. The rules is there are sanctions and no one should trade with Russia. So basically, this is what US is trying to say. It's sending out a statement there, and that's very good for the, what do I call it, for global peace.
All right, and those are the 5 firms there. Opeoluwa Dapo Thomas, International Financial Analyst, joining us live from London. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.